related to accessibility. So as Mike May mentioned earlier, it's about the pat on the back approach, not the requirement approach. So what we do is we focus on in-vehicle use of radio. And guess what? The same things that I have to do to put radio into these giant 2,000-pound steel caskets flying down freeways is the same technology that the low vision and blind community are going to be looking for, because you do not want to take your eyes off of the wheel. So you have to be using things other than your eyes to be accessing music, your voice, or having physical controls. It's the same problem, or it's the same solution for two different problems. Integration is how those happen. So the fragmentation I mentioned earlier about all these different technologies, it comes integrated from adapters. So earlier you heard about what NPR is doing and what Mike mentioned about putting those two to talk together. We do that. So our application has an advanced programming interface. Think of it like taking a square peg and cramming it into like a round hole, and we shave off the sides. So what we do is we make those two fit together. So if you're having any type of a vehicle, they can connect through our API to have their buttons on their car connect to our application. Or on the radio, we took the NPR's API, which was their, I guess you could say their round hole and our square peg, and made those fit by simply, adjusting the code on both sides to make everything work together in a happy medium. And that's the radio that's sitting up right here on the desk that Mike's holding. CEA standards has been, thanks Mike, that CEA standards has been very important. As a member of the Consumer Electronics Association, I encourage you or your company to join CEA. If you're an individual, you could also join the new technology enthusiast group called TE. It's a great program. You can get involved. You could also demonstrate and become the beta community. And it's really important for this group to join that, because if you're beta testing, and even if you're, doesn't matter how old or young you are, if you're testing products, you could be thinking about how it relates to this audience, about the accessibility and the things that are our challenges going forward. And you could be providing that feedback directly to those organizations of CEA, those manufacturers. So again, the Consumer Electronics Association TE group lets you beta test products, and Livio is, we're a proud member of that group. Safety standards, universal design standards, they're one and the same. So, I think that my opinion on this is that I think it's an uphill battle pushing universal design and accessibility and lobbying major manufacturers to do it. However, if you're talking about safety, especially vehicle safety, it's a much easier thing to push because there's a larger audience for it. So going into and lobbying for vehicle technology is going to get those solutions that everyone else is looking for. Again, it's the same solution for two different problems, or the two birds, one stone analogy. And to summarize this, it's all about less is more. So with all the fragmentation of different technologies, what we do is we funnel all of those audio services together, whether it be Pandora, NPR, all the 45,000 internet radio stations, and now GrooveShark is part of our family of partners, putting it into one simple device, whether it's in your car, in your home, or on the go. And less is more. And we believe that less is more gives you more music with less work. You can follow us at Facebook at Livio Radio, our Twitter feed at Livio Radio. We also are doing Foursquare, so if there's any Foursquare users in the room, our company is participating in the social media group for the Consumer Electronics Association. We have a hotspot with an offer at our booth, so be sure to check that out. My blog's jakesigal.com, at Jake Sigal, and if you want to drop me a note, it's Jake at Livio Radio. Thank you.
Okay, this session is all about you. We want you to think of universal design questions that you can ask our panel of experts. And also, I guess I kind of want to jump this off because, Jake, you just set the stage on what we should be watching for and what we should be looking to. And so I have a question for the panel. All right, we've been out on the floor. We've seen all these cool devices. What do you think needs the most work in universal design? Is it the tablets? Is it the mobile phones? Is it the interfaces? What do you guys think has to be the direction that we start looking at as far as what needs to work on universal design elements? Why don't we start with Mike May?
Well, one thing I didn't mention that's pretty basic, if you can think of it when you're particularly starting to design a product, was beeps and bumps. A lot of times for elegance reasons, people will make their finishes nice and smooth, those nice capacitive touch panels for buttons. If you just throw in a little raised line or a tactile thing here and there, make it part of the design, make it look pretty, but have some way of distinguishing where the buttons are, that would be great. A lot of times there's beeps already in devices. Somebody doesn't think, though, to make channel 1 beep differently than the other channels. So even if every channel doesn't speak and it says channel 1, channel 2, and text-to-speech, I mean, that would be great. At least change the pitch of the beep so that it's easy for somebody to memorize and to figure out the difference between power on, power off, or some kind of status modes that you'd be able to take advantage of. So I'd like to see that as something people think about from the ground up when they're designing their products. Add some beeps and bumps.
Mike? Oh, okay.
Technical question, different frequencies or tone implies that, and I can understand how that might be the case, that a person with sight limitations would have a good ability to differentiate tones. But another alternative would be something like, or approaching Morse code, a short sequence of beats. Is it clear that tone differentiation is better?
Well, Mike and I both being ham radio operators, we would love to have Morse code be that would be fantastic. But yeah, anything that, I just want at least a pitch change, but if you can make it more sophisticated than that, let's do it.
That was a technical question for those of you that couldn't hear it. He was asking about tones and problems with hearing at different levels. All right, Mike Starling.
I'd pick up on Mike's theme about accessibility of operating systems, that if it's exposed, if it's documented, if it's an open standard, then it should become eventually, I would think, sort of de facto obligations. And I love Jake's insights about safety features. In our work in this area, we get an automatic resonance when we're talking about safety of life, emergency alerting. Radio does this. We've got that information. We can shove it out quickly. We had a little workshop here the other day, and the fellow from the Helen Keller National Center was talking about how some deaf-blind people perished in Katrina, presumably because they couldn't get information on what to do, where to go, how to evacuate. So I think that the more that we have text and audio interfaces that become sort of a universal design approach, that'll move us forward as a society. And I like Jake's idea about easing into the universal design and accessibility through the safety doorway. I think that's very smart.
And just one quick comment to add to the question. You're not going to see a Livio radio product have Morse code or beeping because this specific product is not designed for the blind community. That's by choice. However, I think what Mike May was mentioning, and I feel very strongly about this, is there are free things that manufacturers can do and should always do to make it more accessible. So, we added ridges to our new products just so you can feel like a button detent position. So that's a free thing that makes it more accessible to anybody as opposed to doing a blind-specific product. However, Livio does want to make a product that has a mode for that specific purpose. But I think that the point is there's a lot of things that you can do in design that are free that do not, make your product turn into a specific made-for-blind person product. And that's I think it's an important point to make, differentiate those two.
And having beeps on a product can be very beneficial to a sighted person as well. You're not always looking at the device. Mm-hmm. Sure, the display may come up, but a lot of products will have a beep on them when you turn them on, and they'll beep when you turn them off. Just make those beeps different so you can tell when you're toggling something.
And I think actually Mike S., I'm going to use your shorten your last names here, but Mike Starling brought up the point that if you take a look at curb cuts and the fact that the deaf communities were the first ones to use PDAs because of the texting features. So there's a lot of things that started out for one purpose and have ended up helping all of us. Sports bars. Everybody reads the scripting underneath it. So there's a lot of headway there. Any questions from the audience? Yes.